Okay, day 7, and another nighttime draw. I think it's, well, dusk, I guess. It's like around 7 p.m. here. So I just traveled back to New York, so that's why I'm gonna do this drawing late at night. And I think, so I was actually going back and revisiting some drawings that I had just done, and also like rewatching some of the previous day videos. And I ran into this effect that's kind of interesting that reminds me of something that I learned from one of my high school art teachers. So I don't really have any formal art training, as I've said, but I did go to an arts high school and I took 2 years worth of like special art courses. And they were super formative, actually, really, really great. Really, really great courses that I'll talk about throughout the series. I wish a little bit, I took them when I was in high school, so I was probably 16, 17, 18. I wish that I had taken them now because I would be able to take them a little bit more seriously. But there's actually still some like seeds of knowledge that have made their way in there. And one of them was so the way one of my courses was set up is every month we would work on one piece. So it could be like, let's say this is like a painting and there was some theme or some challenge, and then we would work on it, let's say for the month of September, and then at the end of September you would finish it and you would turn it in and it would be graded and everything, and then a month later it would be given back to you. So not, you wouldn't see it at all in October, and then November 1st you would see it again, and you had a chance to revisit it for a couple days and make any edits or changes. And what I kind of learned was this like idea, like, the other way that this was explained is like, when you think you're done with a painting, it's a great idea to like put it under your bed or just put it somewhere where you won't be able to see it for, at least a week or two, and then re-see it with fresh eyes, because it allows you to like really uh, like get a better sense of it. Allows you to look at your work more objectively, and you can judge it a bit better based on some of those like characteristics that you were initially judging it on. And so I was revisiting some of the old gesture works that I was doing. And one of them it's funny, like afterwards I said, oh, this is pretty successful. I think in the post drawing dialogue, I was like, okay, I think this is pretty successful. I think I really nailed this drawing, the gesture. It's like pretty close. And then I looked at it again and I was like, actually, there's like a lot of issues here and it's really not gesturally correct. And I think this was the drawing from like 2 or 3. It was only like 3 days ago, maybe, that I had between there, that it was enough time where I could get these fresh eyes on it. So the idea for the drawing for today is to actually revisit that old drawing, and again do gesture, but I'm just going to focus on the 2D construction and the 3D construction. I won't really take it any further, at least as of right now. If I really get in the flow and really get into the drawing, maybe I'll push it and go a little bit further. For sure, I won't go all the way to halftones, but just work a little bit more on the gesture and then come back to the drawing. So I think I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about was this concept of fresh eyes, and then we can just jump right into it. Okay, so this was a nice little drawing exercise. I must say that I'm happy that I revisited it. There's a few things here from the pose, like on the subtlety of the way that it's like the subtlety of how far the pose is leaning back and how much area there is that you can see underneath, let's say, like on what would be like if my head was like just simplified to being a box, how much would be on this like bottom piece of the box, this bottom plane. And I think that actually that's kind of an important piece of this gesture of this pose rather is kind of capturing that. So I'm happy that I revisited it, and I think that this one is more successful. I'm actually going to hesitate on like making any big claims about how I feel about this because I want to do this again. I think in like 3 days, so this is day 7, so maybe like day 10, I'm going to revisit this again and look at it, and maybe I'll start actually, if I remember this, I'll start with a critique. And be like, oh, okay, and kind of go through it and like give it a critique with fresh eyes again, point out, just like I did in the beginning of this one, point out what the issues might have been. Um, and yeah, and then go back to it, again and revisit it. So in that sense, I don't really want to make any big claims about how I feel about this in terms of capturing gesture. It feels more successful in this moment. And I think because I emphasized so much in this drawing, the 2D construction and the 3D construction, and I also worked like very patiently, very slowly. This is something just yesterday I started doing it, and now today I'm doing it, and like I kind of want to continue to work this into my process a little bit more. You know, I think I've talked about in previous videos and previous blogs that, and you can even feel it a little bit maybe in this dialogue, when you start to work on too many things at one time, your practice can become very chaotic, and you don't get as much of that really, at least for me, I don't get as much of that really dedicated practice. So if I talk about, okay, I'm working on process, I'm working on gesture, I'm thinking about these different elements within process, which include the construction, shadow shapes, halftones, edges, all of these other like kind of like sub goals, if you will. And then if I also add on top of that line quality, working slower, it just becomes too much to like feasibly change at once. It's just like artistically not possible to wrap your head around this many changes. So with that being said, I do like this process. I do like this patience, and if it's being kind of worked in naturally, I'm gonna go with it and stick with that. But it's definitely not something that I'm trying to emphasize. Like for example, for today's drawing, I wanted to fix these issues that I had in the gesture and see if I could recapture this pose. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is while I was kind of working on this, I started to thinking about this is actually like a really nice gesture for a portrait. And so sometime soon I want to go into painting. I know we've just been drawing, and I want to do a painting and start to work on painting a little bit more. And it's probably that'll be like one whole week would probably be like 5 sessions normally. I normally put anywhere from like 8 to 10 hours into a painting is normally about the appropriate amount. So like it'll be 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours a day over a week or two. And so I like this gesture a lot, actually. And I like the lighting and the delicacy. I don't know if I would use this reference or if I'll try and see if I can ask a friend to kind of like strike the same pose, or find a similar pose somewhere on the internet. Well, we'll see. So I'm just kind of all meditating on this, but I really like the subtlety of, kind of the way that she's oriented and kind of the emotion and the feeling. And I think that some like really nice things could be done with brushstrokes and color to kind of bring out some of that subtlety and some of that beauty. So anyway, that's it for today. And I will see you tomorrow. We'll probably work a little bit more on gesture or process.